All right, I'm back here with the final page. I actually have to go back to page 270. I kind of lost my spot there. So I'm going to go back to the middle of page 270 when he realizes his elbow's bleeding. Hey, your elbow's bleeding, said Jack. Yeah, I shrugged. It was starting to hurt a lot. You okay? Said Jack, seeing my face. I nodded. Suddenly I felt like crying, and I was trying really hard not to do that. Wait, your hearing aids are gone, said Jack. What? I yelled, touching my ears. The hearing aid band was definitely gone. That's why I felt like I was underwater. Oh no, I said, and that's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. Everything that had just happened kind of hit me, and I couldn't help it. I started to cry, like big crying, what Mom would call the waterworks. I was so embarrassed I hid my face in my arm, but I couldn't stop the tears from coming. The guys were really nice to me, though. They patted me on the back. You're okay, dude. It's okay, they said. You're one brave little dude, you know that? Said Amos, putting his arm around my shoulders. And when I kept on crying, he put both his arms around me like my dad would have done and let me cry. I feel so badly for Augie. All that he had to go through, and he was trying to be so strong, and that was sometimes your adrenaline kicks in, and you have no control over it, and you are so brave for so long, and then, whew, waterworks. You got to let it all out. But I feel so badly that he lost his hearing aids. I wonder if he's going to be in really hot water. All right, the Emperor's Guard. Ooh, how perfect. If anyone's familiar with Star Wars, the Emperor's Guard to the Emperor is kind of in charge of the galaxy of Star Wars. I know my son's shaking his head at me right now. I don't know that much about Star Wars. But anyway, that's kind of like Amos, and all of them are the guard for the Emperor. Okay, so page 271. We backtracked through the grass for a good 10 minutes to see if we could find my hearing aids, but it was way too dark to see anything. We literally had to hold on to each other's shirts and walk in single file so we wouldn't trip over one another. It was like black ink had been poured all around. This is hopeless, said Henry. They could be anywhere. Maybe we can come back with a flashlight, answered Amos. No, it's okay, I said. Let's just go back. Thanks, though. We walked back towards the cornfields and then cut through them until the back of the giant screen came into view. Since it was facing away from us, we didn't get any light from the screen at all until we'd walked around to the edge of the woods again. That's where we finally started seeing a little light. There was no sign of the 7th graders anywhere. Where do you think they went? Said Jack. Back to the food truck, said Amos. They're probably thinking we're going to report them. Are we? Asked Henry. They looked at me. I shook my head. Okay, said Amos, but little dude, don't walk around here alone again, okay? If you need to go somewhere, tell us and we'll go with you. Okay, I nodded. As we got closer to the screen, I could hear, high on a hill was a lonely goatherd, and could smell the cotton candy from one of the concession stands near the food trucks. There were lots of kids milling around in the area, so I pulled what was left of my hoodie over my head and kept my face down, hands in pockets, as we made our way through the crowd. It had been a long time since I'd been out without my hearing aids, and it felt like I was miles under the earth. It felt like that song Miranda used to sing to me. Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit's dead. There's something wrong. I did notice as I walked that Amos had stayed right next to me, and Jack was close on the other side of me, and Miles was in front of us, and Henry was in back of us. They were surrounding me as we walked through the crowds of kids, like I had my own Emperor's Guard. Star Wars. I, again, feel so badly for Augie, but look at how these guys came and helped him and are sticking by him. And there was a little illusion, I guess not an illusion, but a foreshadowing, I meant, at the very beginning when we started reading, when Augie had found out that Julian wasn't going to be on the trip, and he said he knew that nothing was going to go wrong. Did you pick up on that? Let me just go back, and it was actually on page 257, and it says here, so now without him there, meaning Julian, I could really just relax and not worry about anything. Oh. And then it's almost like his worst nightmare happened. He wasn't thinking that would ever occur, and that happened. But thankfully, he's got some friends who came to his rescue, which also was the question on the prediction page from yesterday. Do you think he's going to make new friends? All right, so we've got 2 more pages for today, and it's called Sleep, page 273. Now, the beginning of top here of page 273 is in italics, so you can tell that's not really part of the book that we're reading. This is actually from the book that Augie is reading, which is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Then they came out of the narrow valley, and at once she saw the reason. There stood Peter and Edmund and all the rest of Aslan's army, fighting desperately against a crowd of horrible creatures whom she had seen last night. Only now, in the daylight, they looked even stranger and more evil and more deformed. Interesting that he's reading that part. It kind of connects to what he had been through. I stopped there. I'd been reading for over an hour, and sleep still didn't come. It was almost 2 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. I had my flashlight on under the sleeping bag, and maybe the light was why I couldn't sleep, but I was too afraid to turn it off. I was afraid of how dark it was outside the sleeping bag. When we got back to our section in front of the movie screen, no one had even noticed we'd been gone. So now he's having a flashback, right? So he's remembering this while he's back at his cabin trying to sleep that night. So he's flashing back to what happened when they got back to their seats. Mr. Tushman and Miss Rubin and Summer and all the rest of the kids were just watching the movie. They had no clue how something bad had almost happened to me and Jack. It's so weird how that can be. How you could have a night that's the worst in your life, but to everybody else, it's just an ordinary night. Like on my calendar at home, I would mark this as being one of the most horrific days of my life. This and the day Daisy died. But for the rest of the world, it was just an ordinary day. Or maybe it was even a good day. Maybe somebody won the lottery today. Amos, Miles, and Henry brought me and Jack over to where we'd been sitting before with Summer and Maya and Reed, and then they went and sat where they had been sitting before with Examina and Savannah and their group. In a way, everything was exactly as we had left it before we went looking for the toilets. The sky was the same, the movie was the same, everyone's faces were the same, mine was the same. But something was different. Something had changed. I could see Amos and Miles and Henry telling their group what had just happened. I knew they were talking about it because they kept looking over at me while they were talking. Even though the movie was still playing, people were whispering about it in the dark. News like that spreads fast. It was what everyone was talking about on the bus ride back to the cabins. All the girls, even the girls I didn't know very well, were asking me if I was okay. The boys were all talking about getting revenge on the group of 7th grade jerks trying to figure out what school they were from. I wasn't planning on telling the teachers about any of what had happened, but they found out anyway. Maybe it was the torn sweatshirt and the bloody elbow, or maybe it's just the teachers hear everything. When we got back to the camp, Mr. Tushman took me to the first aid office, and while I was getting my elbow cleaned and bandaged up by the camp nurse, Mr. Tushman and the camp director were in the next room talking with Amos and Jack and Henry and Miles, trying to get a description of the troublemakers. When he asked me about them a little later, I said I couldn't remember their faces at all, which wasn't true. It's their faces I kept seeing every time I closed my eyes to sleep. The look of total horror on the girl's face when she first saw me. The way the kid with the flashlight, Eddie, looked at me as he talked to me, like he hated me. Like a lamb to the slaughter. I remember Dad saying that ages ago, but tonight I think I finally got what it meant. Like a lamb to the slaughter. We saw it a couple of times throughout the book. And here it is in the end, and now Augie finally understands that he's the lamb. And tonight was the closest he probably ever came to the slaughter. Let's hope that is the closest he ever came to the slaughter. And luckily, he had some friends who helped him out. So for right now, everything worked out. I do definitely feel so badly that he lost his hearing aids, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe they'll find it, or I don't know. We'll have to see what happens when he tells his parents. But it was an interesting part. That's why I added so much, because I felt like I couldn't stop before we got to this part here. So I hope you're enjoying the story as much as I am. There is a little review question for you to answer, response to reading, that talks about that very last paragraph there. Like a lamb to the slaughter. I remember Dad saying that ages ago, but tonight I think I finally got what it meant. And the question's going to ask you about, do you think he is really like a lamb anymore? Do you think he's that innocent little lamb anymore? They're also going to ask, also wanted you to pay attention to the top of page 274, where Augie says, but something was different. Something had changed. You know, and again, that's kind of foreshadowing. What do you think has changed? What do you think life for Augie is going to be like now at Beecher Prep? All right, that's it for today. Maybe I'll be back next week with some more reading. All right, guys, enjoy your day. Oh, some good news if you're listening. Monday the 23rd was supposed to be a teacher in service day, and you were not supposed to have school that day. So no school on Monday. Yay, long weekend. I will post some things that you don't have to do, just some fun activities if you'd like to do. All right, bye.